Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and we have a solid case for why Jinx is Arcane's real hero and not Vi. In fact, we believe that Season 2 will finally expose her as the main villain of this franchise.
My sister is gone.
Hold up, person. Isn't Jinx like a crazy, cold-hearted killer?
Yes. Now, I know it may be confusing, but hear me out. One of Arcane's biggest strengths is the complexity of its characters, especially Jinx, and there are some pretty big hints in what we've seen in Season 2 so far to back this up. In the trailers, murals of Jinx can be seen all over Zaun's walls, implying that the people of Zaun certainly heroize her at some point in this season. In contrast, we know that Vi is going through a bit of a goth phase, and has even joined the Enforcers.
Well, I thought she hated the Enforcers.
Exactly, Doug. In Season 2, she has regressed in her own ideals and is slowly becoming the person that she hated as a child. Now, this is no surprise to League of Legends fans, as the game introduces her as a Piltover Enforcer, but it's one of many signs that she is actually the villain and not Jinx.
What a twist!
So to fully understand why, we have to discuss what defines a hero, the themes of Season 1, and how Jinx's final act was the only real way to stop Piltover's exploitation.
Yeah, but person, Jinx did a lot of bad things. How can she be a good guy?
Alright, so let's take a step back and look at what makes a hero. The hero is typically defined as the character who triumphs in the face of adversity and continually moves the plot forward. They do what no one else can do, and they make the impossible possible.
That's impossible!
Yeah, but don't they gotta be a good guy too?
I mean, not necessarily. Good is a matter of perspective. I think about Westerns for a second. We used to make movies where the cowboys were the good guys and the Native Americans were the villains, even though the cowboys were essentially raiding innocent people's homes and displacing them.
That ain't right. That ain't right.
We see Din as the hero of The Mandalorian, and the dude is literally a bounty hunter who kills people for money. There are so many characters that we consider heroes despite their moral imperfections. The idea that good is simply a matter of perspective has been explored for ages in media. It's the basic idea behind movies like Joker, Despicable Me, Shrek, hell, even the Star Wars prequels. But the best example is one of the first, Paradise Lost.
The new sequel to Jurassic Park.
No, Paradise Lost is a 17th century poem by John Milton. The story follows the biblical Christian creation story, but from the devil's perspective. After he falls from heaven, he is able to corrupt God's creation, humans, for all eternity. Now, the big question here is, who's the hero? Well, when the story is limited to that specific context, it has to be Satan himself. He pushes himself to conquer an insurmountable force, and in the end, he wins.
I'm winning! I'm winning!
So, with the right perspective, even the devil can technically be made into a hero. Another narrative tool that people use to determine who is the hero is the classic hero's journey. The hero's journey is a storytelling template that's been used for centuries. It outlines the standard plot points a hero follows on a transformational journey. It's been the basic structure for everything from Homer's Odyssey to Star Wars. The hero's journey technically has 12 steps, but most modern stories follow these 8. The call to adventure, the refusal, meeting the mentor, crossing the first threshold, the first test, the approach, the ordeal, and the reward. Now, if you look at Jinx's story from this perspective, you can start to see how Jinx fits the mold of a hero. She receives her call to adventure when she loses her parents in the war between Piltover and Zaun. Initially, Vi refuses the call for her.
I can help!
You're not ready.
She can't fully commit herself to the cause because she's simply not old enough to keep up with her big sister. This eventually leads to the disaster that kills 2 of her friends.
You did this?
After Vi abandons her, she meets a new mentor, Silco.
She left me?
She then crosses the threshold as she starts actively engaging in the conflicts between Zaun and Piltover. She's tested multiple times with various degrees of success. Finally, the approach is defined as the moment the hero approaches the innermost cave, or the heart of darkness, often facing their greatest fears and challenges. For Jinx, that was the nightmares that she had while she was being reborn through Shimmer. Her final ordeal involves choosing who she wants to be. In doing so, she's able to do the one thing that everyone around her has failed to do: respond to change with reasonable action.
Yeah, but person, the people she blew up are gonna declare peace.
Yes, they may have agreed to give the Undercities independence, but would that really solve anything? Remember, many conflicts in the first season started during a time of peace. Look, Piltover is essentially a steampunk Silicon Valley, and it has a very similar elitist mentality. People from all over Runeterra flock to the city for its advanced technology and economic wealth, none of which benefits the city below. The only thing trickling down is their garbage. Zaun is essentially a dumping ground for Piltover. It's dark, the air is toxic, and everybody there is either a criminal or addicted to drugs, all of which is a direct result of Piltover elitism. The citizens of Piltover couldn't care less about the struggles of the Undercity, and they refused to share its technology or military resources. Kate said it herself in episode 8.
You know what else reflects on the council?
It's citizens living on the streets, having to choose between a kingpin who wants to exploit them and a government that doesn't give a shit.
They only send enforcers down there when they need something specific. Otherwise, they're fine with letting the Zonites succumb to their own vices. Now, despite their selfishness, Piltover and Zon are deeply connected to each other. Even when they were politically independent, it's clear they both depend on each other economically, which is why there were riots in the streets when Jace closed the bridge to Zon. Zon's independence wouldn't force Piltover to share its technology resources or enforcers, and it wouldn't stop the Shimmer epidemic or any of the lawless chaos happening there. Peace through political independence may sound nice on paper, but in reality, it just creates another system for Piltover to abuse for its own gain. While Zon may be a cesspool for crime and violence, there is also a sense of family there. Most people simply want freedom, and if they can't have that, they just want to survive. The crime there is mostly motivated by those needs, not greed, which is a stark contrast to the power-hungry leaders of Piltover. So a peace treaty was never really an option. It would have been a significant win for Piltover, but nothing would change for the people of Zon. It would just take them back to square one.
We're back where we started.
Alright, I get it. Piltover bad, and peace would never really have worked, but that still doesn't explain how blowing up the Hex Gate and the council leaders was a good thing.
You're right, and to fully understand that, we have to understand the main theme of Arcane. The series itself is all about change, how things evolve or degrade over time. These changes are inevitable, and facing them requires you to let go of the past. Every character in the show is faced with inevitable change. Jace has to face the reality that Hex tech will be weaponized. Victor has to face the inevitability of his health issues. Kate has to face the fact that Piltover and Zon are oil and water.
Top side and bottom, oil and water, that's all there is.
All refuse to do so before it's too late. Now, Echo does accept change initially, creating a new life for himself, but when he sees his old friend in Jinx, he longs for his past and he's punished for it. Silco has accepted change at first. Vander's betrayal showed him that he must be willing to do anything to achieve independence for Zon.
And all the while, this question lingers before you. You could pass a lifetime without ever facing a choice like that, but it changes you forever.
Now, in the end, he fails to turn in Jinx, the one anything he needed to do to actually achieve his goals.
I never would have given you to them, not for anything.
So he hasn't really changed. They all have to face inevitable change, but they fail to let go of their past in some way. Vi and Jinx are faced with the same inevitable change, that they're both grown up. In the finale, Vi is terrified of who Jinx has become. She sees her as a monster, and this is why she flinches when Jinx removes the dish cover. She truly believes that her sister is capable of killing her girlfriend and serving her head on a silver platter.
What did you do?
I made her a snack.
This is why Jinx says,
I thought maybe you could love me like you used to, but you changed too.
Yeah, but if Vi has changed, then doesn't that make her the good guy too?
Not exactly, because Vi hasn't changed, at least not really. She's still very much the person she was as a kid. She's stubborn, hot-headed, and always tries to solve things with her fists, despite Vander telling her countless times that that's not what real power looks like.
You've got a good heart. Don't ever lose it. No matter how the world tries to break you, protect the family.
However, there is one thing that has changed, her sister's acceptance of her. Vi doesn't love her sister for who she is, but rather for who she was. When Vi and Powder were kids, Vi was her protector. She saw Powder as weak and constantly tried to push her past it.
I can help!
You're not ready.
But what does she do when Powder finally overcomes that weakness by becoming Jinx?
Sheesh, I'm not that crazy.
Vi rejects her. She abandons her, just like she did when they were kids. That's the change that Jinx is talking about. Vi doesn't love her like a sister anymore. She does not love her unconditionally. She doesn't love her, weaknesses and all, like she used to. That's what changed, but it's the same change that Vi went through a long time ago. Jinx is telling Vi that this is her way of accepting that Vi will never be her sister, that she will never change back, something her sister fails to do. She faces her past and understands that Vi will always be the sister who abandoned her. And not only that, but she acts on it too. She launches an attack against the people directly responsible for everything bad that's ever happened to her. By attacking the Hex Gate and the Council of Piltover, she disrupts the system in a way that can't be ignored, unlike the peace treaty.
I support Councillor Talus's proposal for peace.
It's a mixture of what she learned from both of her mentors. Vi taught her to overcome her own weakness, and Silco taught her that she has to be willing to do anything to meet her goals.
Yeah, but isn't Silco like a super evil drug dealer? How can Jinx be the hero if she's working for a super evil drug dealer? Explain.
Well look, Silco may look like a stereotypical bad guy, but he's not. Yes, he may be a drug dealer, but to him, Shimmer isn't a drug. It's raw, chaotic power. It's a direct response to Hextech and all of the horrible side effects its development has had on the people of Zon.
It's time to let the monster out.
Hextech exclusively benefits the bourgeoisie of Piltover. It represents power through order and how easily the ruling class can weaponize that power. Shimmer, on the other hand, represents power through chaos. It transforms people into monsters that can go toe-to-toe with Hextech enforcers. It turns prey into predators, like the lab rats that we saw it first tested on. It's meant to balance the scales between the two cities and give the Undercity a fighting chance. It eliminates the burden of free will, allowing the unwilling to become
The base violence necessary for change.
With that in mind, Silco is less of a villain and more of a tragic hero. Shimmer is his way of creating power through chaos. The only reason he's peddling the drug in the first place is to give liquid liberty to the people of Zon. And that way, he's successful. However, his goal was misaligned. He believed that Zon's independence would solve all his issues, but as we stated earlier, peace was never a real option. Even if it was, he couldn't bring himself to do what was necessary to achieve it in the end, but Jinx could. It's something that he recognizes as he's dying, which is why he says,
Don't cry. You're perfect.
Despite how crazy it may look, Jinx's final act is not only heroic, but also proves that she's the only one capable of accepting her past and taking meaningful action in the face of inevitable change. The only real obstacle that prevented her from getting there was Vi. Vi was the only one who was constantly trying to change her back into Powder, but Powder would have never been able to pull the trigger in the end. If Jinx had taken her sister's side, not only would she have regressed as a character, but the people of Zon would have continued to be exploited under the guise of peace.
That's your choice, really.
Which is why Vi is the real villain.
But she was just trying to get her sister back. How does that make her a villain?
Well, we defined a hero earlier, but we never defined a villain. So let's back up for a second.
Back it up. Yeah, back it up. Okay.
A villain is simply anyone who opposes the hero. They are the main force behind the struggle that the hero eventually overcomes. It also helps to have a good evil laugh. Now in that context, Vi is a villain. She is the main obstacle preventing Jinx from pulling the trigger and pleads with her to return to a weaker version of herself. Vi holds on to the idea of who her sister was, rather than who she is. And who Jinx is now is a direct result of how Vi constantly pushed her as a child. Jinx may be a monster, but she is a monster of her sister's own making, hence the title of the finale. Despite her sister's attempt to regress her, Jinx is able to overcome and enact meaningful change. With the classist members of the council out of the picture and the Hexgate destroyed, there is a chance that Zonites can actually dismantle Piltover's power over them. And all the colors we see in the trailers for Season 2 all but confirm it.
The colors?
Yes, Doug, the colors. There is a lot of color symbolism in Arcane. Characters, technology, factions, and even the cities all have distinct colors representing them. We usually saw one of these colors dominating the scene throughout the first season. The symbolism of these colors is likely a reference to the primary runes in League of Legends. Blue is for sorcery, gold is for precision, green for resolve, powder blue for inspiration, and red for domination. Now, we could go through all the symbolism of all these in detail, but that would be for a whole other video. The important aspect is that in the first season, one color typically dominates a given scene, and we see this trend continued in trailers for Season 2. We see a scene with Warwick bathed in red, the Undercity still green, Ambessa in gold, and Vi, who's gone full emo, covering her face tattoo with black paint and lacking almost any color whatsoever. These single color scenes represent the characters' current paths and distinguish them as unique, leading to different ends. However, some of the scenes in Season 2 don't fit this singular color idea. The most obvious example is the multicolored explosion attack from Episode 3 that seems reminiscent of Holi, the Hindu festival of colors. Most of the multicolored scenes in the show, including that one, are connected to Jinx. Even the mural on the city wall surrounds her with the multicolored explosions.
So she's a hero because she's got a lot of colors?
Yes and no. Now, while the colors don't literally make her a hero, changing from a singularly colored scene to a multicolored scene carries some symbolism. If these single colors represent the individual paths, then the multicolored scenes represent a convergence of those paths. Judging by the paintings on the wall, it's not a far stretch to believe that her final act of Season 1 did exactly what it was intended to do, actually unite the oppressed people of Zon under one banner. As for Vi, her descent into darkness couldn't be more literal. Maybe she's finally realizing her role in creating Jinx.
Why did you leave me?
Because you're a Jinx!
Jinx may be one of the most difficult heroes to understand, but she is the only one who confronts inevitable change head-on and creates the opportunity for true resolution. But what do you guys think of our take? Is Jinx really a hero? Are there any important details we missed? Big shout out to Dodd Sides who wrote this video. You can find his social links below, and you can let me know in the comments or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.